Hi, everybody. Essence here, and today I am answering the question, what is trauma? People ask me, what is trauma? I don't know if I have trauma, and so I want to answer that question for you. I'm going to share with you some definitions of what trauma is. I am going to talk to you about how some people categorize trauma and how we minimize trauma. Sometimes we minimize our own traumas. We may unknowingly minimize other people's traumas. So we are covering that today. First, I want to say I am not a mental health care provider. I am the goddess of transmutation, breakthrough specialist, and also known as a spiritual life coach. All right, so my job is to keep things simple, to bring enlightenment because you don't know what you don't know, but once you know, you can do something about it. Okay. All right. So diving right in, I'm going to share with you a few of the definitions that you might find if you were to look up trauma or what you may just think because of what you've heard before. So a definition you may come across is trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event such as an accident, a rape, a death, illness, or a natural disaster. Okay. The second one is a trauma is a wound to living tissue. Okay. All right. So those are two that you may find. But now I'm going to share with you two other ones that you may find, but that I love and that really apply to the work that I do. Okay. So simple. Trauma is an emotional upset. Another one, trauma is a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. Okay. So when you define it in those two ways, you can see how it's easier to see trauma as a more wide range of different events that a person may experience. So, boss yelling at you in a meeting, being 7 years old and being the only kid who didn't get invited to Sheila's birthday party. The person you've been dating for years tells you that they no longer want to see you. Um, Failing at something you've been working towards for years, like a business or maybe an athlete, or it could be, the bar, right? Like, so there's a wide range of events and situations that can happen that our brain then will store as a traumatic event. Okay. So you'll also find that some people will categorize trauma as trauma with a capital T and then trauma with a lowercase t, right? So traumas with a capital T might be physical or sexual abuse, rape, death, physical injury, illness, divorce, and divorce meaning for the parents or for the children, abandonment, emotional abandonment, or emotional neglect. Emotional abandonment and emotional neglect are two of the things that my clients don't typically seem to think are traumas, and that not getting that love and emotional support that they needed as kids from their parents, they have a hard time acknowledging that that was a trauma, and it is, right? So if you think about, let's say, a 5-year-old wanting their parents' love and attention and nurturing, and they don't get it, and then they start to think there's something wrong with me, that's traumatic. Okay. Lowercase t would be, again, like being broken up with, failure, getting fired, your best friend moving away, whether you're an adult or a kid, your dog dying, whether as a kid or an adult, uh, maybe feeling, not feeling as important as one of your siblings. So depending on the degree of that, that may even be a capital T, right? So and this is not an exhaustive list. These are just what came to mind as I was creating my content. So each individual person's brain interprets whether an event will be stored as a normal event, a normal experience, or a traumatic experience. Okay. I'm going to talk about trauma and the brain response in part 2 of the video. So I'll have the link down below for you to watch that. Okay, so for instance, when I was in 6th grade, my best friend moved away, and that was deeply traumatic for me. I mean, I cried for weeks, if not months, because I knew she was moving away because her dad was in the military. And so, like, I would come home from school and just cry. I would go to our spot where we used to meet up and just cry. It was extremely traumatic for me. And I'm an only child, and she felt like a sister to me. And I already had abandonment issues from my dad not raising me. Not that I really knew it, but looking back, I can see why her moving away was so, so traumatic for me. And I don't even think I talked to anybody about it. I just kept it bottled up. Okay. Now, another person's best friend may be moving away, and this kid may have more resilience in that area and is like, oh, sad, but like, we're going to write each other. And mom said you can come visit me over the summer, or I can come visit you. And, you know, they may have a down day or two, but then they are back playing with the other neighborhood kids and are completely fine. Right? So there's just different factors in how one person may interpret trauma versus another. So an experience, again, just like, let's say a kid reading and stutters and the other kids laugh at him, that may register in that person's brain as a trauma, whereas another kid may just laugh with the other kids and just brush it off, right? So again, it is based on each individual's person's, like, their own resilience, as well as the environment that they came from. Like, there's different factors in how your brain interprets an event as trauma or not. And even two siblings who were brought up in the same house, let's say that there was abuse in the house, one person may grow up and, you know, have worthiness issues, have bad relationships themselves, and just is in the same cycle that their parents were in, and just, you know, is full of trauma. Whereas the other sibling is, you know, married, happy, successful, doing good, and her brain didn't register it as traumatic. Okay. All right. So the most important thing about categorizing traumas is to know there really is no hierarchy in trauma. Trauma is trauma, pain is pain, okay? So one person may be in pain because they were molested as a kid. Another person may be in pain because they were humiliated in front of the class as a kid. Right? One person may be in pain because they were sexually abused. Another person may be in pain because their partner left, right? There is no, well, this person is going through that, so maybe, you know, mine isn't that big of a deal. It is. It is a big deal. Like, all trauma, all pain, especially emotional pain. I want to highlight that, because we'll say, like, if somebody like gets physically hurt, like, yeah, that deserves to be acknowledged. But so does emotional pain. Does not matter the level or the degree of it. Pain is pain, and it deserves to be acknowledged and felt and healed. Okay, so you don't want to minimize your trauma, and you don't want to minimize anyone else's experience. Just because you would handle a situation differently than someone else doesn't, you know, give you the right to minimize theirs. Or just because your sister would not have reacted to that situation the way you did does not mean you should minimize your own experience. Okay, it is all personal and very individual to us. Okay, so we don't base things on what someone else went through or how someone else may take it if they went through it. Okay, pain is pain, trauma is trauma, and it all deserves to be felt, acknowledged, and healed. Okay. So I know that this can be a very heavy topic. It can be scary, but I want you to know that trauma is actually, in my experience, really simple to heal. I've helped my clients heal from sexual abuse. I've helped my clients heal from divorce, from molestation, from abandonment, and it's not that hard. It's not as hard and as scary as people make it out to be. It's like like this big boogeyman, but when you really dive into it, it's like, oh, that's just was like a little stick figure. Not that the event wasn't a big deal, but like when you really dive into the emotions of it all to like start doing the healing work, it's not as big and scary as your brain makes it out to be. So, all right, just want to tell you this. If you have some stuff that you know you've tucked way in the back, but it's coming up to be healed and you're having some fear, I'm just here to tell you it does not have to be hard or take years to get through it, at least not the way that I do it. Okay, so I am a spiritual life coach. I help women break through heavy, stuck emotions, embrace self-love, and embody your most abundant self. Okay, so if you are feeling heavy, weighed down, and you just feel like your inner essence, your inner light is dim and you're not feeling like yourself, I have the perfect thing for you. It is my free masterclass. It is called 5 Secrets to Elevating Your Essence. So I show you how and why trauma gets stuck in your system. And then I give you 5 ways to elevate and liberate yourself from the trauma. You just have to do the work that I share in the video. Okay. All right, so I hope that this video has deeply served you and answered your question to what is trauma. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can visit essenceturner.com to get the masterclass. I'll link it below, but also you can visit the contact page if you have any questions or want to know more about working one-on-one with me. All right, so you enjoy the rest of your day.